Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm calling the Administrative Services meeting of February 7th to order. It's 8:30. Okay, that's great. Let's have that conversation after.
Are we saying,
I'm going to call a roll call.
Okay.
Teresa?
I am here, present.
And
I'm here too.
Terry?
Yes.
And I'm here, and Matt's going to join us by phone. Can I have a motion to allow Matt to join us by phone?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes of approval. Can I have a motion to approve the January 9th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Teresa, second by Terry. Any changes or corrections?
No.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comment. I know everybody in the room, so I don't think there is any, but is there anything on that sheet?
No. I don't know if we want to acknowledge it's not on the agenda, but we are going to have an executive session.
Okay. And have an executive session. All right. There's no matter. Nobody signed up on public comment. Member comments.
I do not have.
I see there's a lot, so we're going to go forward. I'm going to skip forward to the routine consent agenda. Besides 7.4 and 7.5, is there anything else that anybody wants off?
Who's pulling 7, 4, and 5?
I'll pull it because I know we're going to talk to it anyway.
Yeah.
Not, can I have a motion to approve 7.1 through 7.3?
The rest of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, moved by Pam, seconded by Terry. All those in, I got the roll call. Pam?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Matt's not on the line, is he?
No, it's not here, so no.
Oh. No, those are,
He's only.
He's the message.
he's not there. Okay, I see that it's up there, but okay. 4-0, the routine consent agenda is approved. Brings us to the state's attorney's salaries. I pulled it because I know the state's attorney's office is here and they want to talk to us about it. So come on up, whoever wants to talk about it.
And can I note,
Figures.
before they get up here, can I note that the same issue was before law and government and it did pass? So I just wanted to provide that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, wherever you'd like, but you got to be close enough to be on the mics.
Okay.
Tell us why you want to raise.
Yeah, it's not set by me. Well, first of all, thank you to the committee for having me here today. It's always a joy to come across the street. In 2016, Lisa, how many FTEs did we cut? 2 or 3?
No, we cut 5.6.
Okay.
I know it's an odd number, but it was 5.6.
So in 2016, we cut 5.6 full-time employees. We saved the county since then over $2.5 million. How many other departments have done that? And I'm sure there are. And I'm trying to provoke the committee just to consider that question. And we did it on day one. It wasn't part of a budget process. It was irregular. There were no committee hearings. And we did it to little fanfare. We saved the county over $2 million bringing all our labor in-house. So prior to 2016, we would outsource a lot of our civil labor work. And that would be sometimes to a tune of about $250,000. I think, and so since then we've saved the county $2 million. And I think that in addition to that, we've saved the county money because we're doing a better job than the private attorneys used to do so by virtue of the fact that we're working hand in hand with Cheryl. And I think Cheryl can attest to the fact that not only has the savings come by not hiring private attorneys at market value, but it's also come in our negotiating salaries. State Attorney's Office has brought millions to the county through the opioid settlement. We've defended the county and saved millions of dollars in civil litigation. We can go through chapter and verse some of the cases that this county has faced with plaintiffs asking for millions of dollars and settling for pennies on the dollar or getting the case dismissed. All of that is done in-house by the civil division. So just to start out with, I think if there's ever a department that has established, let's say it's fiscally conservative or fiscally responsible bona fides, and has operated its department on the leanest possible basis, it would be the McHenry County State's Attorney's Office. If there's ever been a department that has protected the county from people who want to reach into its pockets, and its particularly deep pockets, it's been the McHenry County State's Attorney's Office. So the problem is that our salaries are not competitive, especially after recent increases from the very counties that we compete with for employees. So that would be Lake, McHenry, and DuPage. In 2023, all of them surreptitiously, by virtue of the fact that they have been hemorrhaging people, significantly increased their salaries to the tune of about 15 to 20%. They didn't tell anybody, and the reason that they didn't tell anybody is because they were losing people and they needed to fill those positions, but they also needed to retain the people that they had, and they didn't want to continue in the death spiral that they were in. So I told this story at the last committee meeting, but when Lou Bianchi was a state's attorney, he was a wonderful state's attorney, a wonderful man, but he had an accordion file full of resumes that he would keep on his desk. And when you go in to sort of gripe or complain, like you'd always be, that accordion file of resumes was always in the foreground, okay, during any kind of discussion. I pay for ads, and I'm lucky to get 2 resumes. I'm lucky to get 1. So why is this? Well, things have changed considerably over the last 2 to 3 years. There's been cultural forces that have twisted the general public's view of law enforcement as well as prosecutors. And many of the young people that we rely on to fill many of the entry-level positions are no longer interested in being prosecutors. There's been market forces that have significantly driven up the cost, the salaries for young attorneys. And cultural forces, so that you have the millennials and the Gen Z people, they won't work 80 hours a week. And so how the private firms have adapted is they've kept the salaries the same because they want to attract the best type of talent, but they've lowered the number of hours, which means not only is that job a better job to have in attracting more people, but they need more of them. All right, and then in addition to that, the job, I think, especially of lawyering, has become a little bit more comfortable by virtue of the fact that many people can now work from home. We have Zoom court calls, et cetera. Many of the law firms don't want to pay the added capital expense of having big office buildings downtown. And that makes the job more comfortable, and that makes the job more attractive. I cannot have my employees work from home. We need to be working hand in glove with law enforcement, going out on scenes, looking at evidence. We need to be standing shoulder to shoulder with victims in the courtroom. We need to have our feet firmly planted in a courtroom on a daily basis. That's what the job is. And it's a tough job. I mean, I don't know that I've explained that enough. We are immersing ourselves in, like law enforcement, in the very worst, most catastrophic things that happened in this community. We're dealing with dead people who have died in horrible, violent ways and their family members. We're dealing with children who have been brutalized by family members sexually, all right? It is, we're fighting for every single inch in a criminal justice system that very oftentimes seems as though it is set up to protect the rights of a defendant. So the point is that it is a hard job, but it is a harder job than the vast majority of humanity has. And it is a harder job than the vast majority of humanity wants to do. And so we're pulling from a very small group of people. So we already have a small group, and then we're already competing against these other counties, Lake County, Kane County, and DuPage County, for that same small group. And if we cannot pay a commensurate salary, we are not going to be able to get these people. And it's not just a question. So over the last 7 years, I've done, not 7 years, over the last probably 3 years, I would say, when this has really become a problem post-COVID, I have pulled out every trick I know. I've called everybody. I've begged people. I've pleaded with people. I've humbled myself. I have gone to places I've never wanted to go and asked people to come and work at the state attorney's office. I've begged people to stay. And through that patchwork, we've been able to, I think, maintain the office at full capacity, if not just under full capacity. But that luck is running out. We have 2 open positions right now, so we're already taking on water. If we're going to continue to take on water, we're only going to take on water faster and faster and faster. So I don't want to be in 3 months coming back to the county board saying, well, now it's 10 positions. And now, by virtue of the fact that, and now we're already working, and so now it's 10 positions, and the people that are there have been working in overdrive for the last 6 months to a year. Now, they're all unhappy, and they're looking to leave. And now it's a question of me having to go out and hire private attorneys at a market rate just to maintain the work level, just to do the bare possible minimum that the state's attorney's office can do. So, you know, the people that we have, like I said, they're already redlining, right? They're already doing a difficult job, and there's not enough people to do all of the work that needs to be done. And while I love each and every one of them, and I hope they have similar affection to me, it's always a question of the bottom line. And so if they can go 20 minutes east, 30 minutes south, or whatever, and do the exact same job, less work and more money, it's a no-brainer. So if the objection is that, well, you know, this isn't part of the normal budget process, I understand that, like I do. I understand rules are important, I understand procedures are important, I understand that this is irregular. My point is that we are in an irregular time, and this demands an irregular response. If the idea is that, like, look, if we're gonna do this for the state's attorney's office on an emergency basis, we're gonna have to do this to all departments, everybody can come forward, I would say, that may very well be true, but I'm just asking that instead of just having this ironclad rule, we evaluate this petition on the merits of this and any petitions that come in the future on those merits. And if you're gonna establish the precedent that, look, we have this ironclad rule, it's gotta go through the process and the procedures, that's fine. And if you don't wanna do that because you don't wanna establish the precedent that allows people to come forward on an emergency basis, you're also establishing a precedent. And the precedent is that if you need help on an emergency basis, don't come to the county board. And what that's gonna tell me as a department head is that I can't cut. Is that when I see a place in my department to cut, I can't do it because I need my own emergency reserves, because when I come to the county board, they're not gonna be there for me. So my understanding is that this is not going to add to the budget. My understanding is that this isn't gonna like increase taxes. We already have enough unfilled positions, and that the cost of this can be absorbed in the budget that we already have. I hope that the record of the state's attorney's office speaks for itself, that we have never asked for things that we don't need, you know, and so this is important. This is something that we need, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't. So thank you all for hearing me out, and thank you for any consideration.
Questions first? Matt's here, okay. Just for the record, Matt has joined us on the phone, so.
And I would just ask before,
Yeah, go ahead.
can Cheryl provide the same information you gave us at Law and Government, which I think did answer many of the concerns? So can you do it before we do questions? Is that okay?
So every 2 years, we're now doing a compensation study to see that our positions are in mid-market. Back in October, when departments were asked to identify what positions you want the comp study to do, this was not an issue. So they did not raise this to be done. The comp study is out there being done right now. This happened after the comp study's already been started. And when they asked me to do a quick comp study for them, I did look at the counties that Patrick mentioned, plus Will County, because we typically compare ourselves with them also. And so mid-market is what we're bringing forward. And so part of the discussion was, well, the comp study, everybody else is going to be July 1. Can you wait till July 1? And the response is, it would really be hard if we waited. There are several other positions that have moved forward before the comp study because we didn't want to lose people. This is another one of those situations.
Other questions?
Well, are we going to have a presentation on where the funds are coming from in the either non-departmental or general funds? What's been allocated and just so that, you know,
You're on the hot seat.
we have an idea. We don't want to reach into a magic pile of money and pull out a bunch of money because it's taxpayer money. We want to know what it's
So we had
allocated.
talked about a couple different funding options. One of them is in this past budget, we used some of our fund reserve to fully fund our capital program. So we talked about maybe re-looking at that, or if anything we could push off. We're looking at a project that potentially we could use ARPA dollars for. And then that maybe we could use the Lake County revenue for to cover this. I guess the challenge is those are all one-time revenue sources for an ongoing personnel expense. So this would be something, as well as the July 1st increases that we would talk about with the next budget.
Well, what about, I had brought up in discussing with you and Pete, the amount that, you were talking about that generally the payroll burden budget is 1 or 2% depending on the departmental size. And so that's put into either non-departmental or general funds there as a reserve or an allocation for these types of things. How much is in that? That's what.
So as part of the budget policy, we look at all general fund departments and we hold back the merit and either 1 or 2% depending on the size of the department. And we put that into non-departmental, so then that way, especially the larger departments, any open positions that are unfilled, usually they don't end up needing that money, but I'm not sure that I would want to, I mean, it is set aside because like a smaller department that is fully staffed all year, they will need that money transferred back into their budget. I think, I'm having trouble logging in. There's about probably just under $1 million budgeted for that in there.
Well, so when we do something like this, is it possible for us to have an understanding that that's where these funds are coming from? I mean, they have, if I have a pile of $1 million and I need 400,000, that $1 million was put there for some purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't have, we'd have our reserve, this isn't a part of our 6-month reserve for the different areas. This is money that we have sitting there for, I would think at times such as this, but we really need to understand. So we take this out, and then is it such that other things won't come up, that we had that money, kind of earmarked for that in that fund, and now we need that money, so it's not available anymore, so we have to switch something else. That's what I think. There is, well, we're not even to discussion, but I was expecting a presentation. I think anytime we have a request like this, then we have a presentation of exactly where that money's coming from that's going to be covering it. So you guys are going to do that, right?
We are not proposing to use the unallocated salary dollars in non-departmental accounts. So we say general fund and non-departmental interchangeably because the non-departmental is general fund dollars. We're proposing to draw on fund reserve to fill this hole. At the end of the calendar year, at the end of the fiscal year, it all kind of washes anyways. And if we ended up not using all of our unallocated salary dollars, those roll into the fund reserve. But that's why we're proposing that this be an emergency appropriation, requiring the 2/3 vote, because we're going to take monies from the fund reserve and put them into the budget.
And usually
the option that you're proposing would probably also work, but we're not sure. Because
time out. I'm not proposing anything. I'm asking what you're proposing. Okay.
So usually when we have a resolution that comes forward where they're asking to increase budget, but there's not a defined revenue source, like a grant or something else, then the typical language is to use fund balance. But I think everyone kind of understands, like, there's so many things coming in and coming out, and I wouldn't recommend using the holdback for the general fund because we did that in the 23 budget. I don't know if you guys recall. In an effort to keep the tax levy low, we reduced about $500,000 out of there. So in the 23 budget, I think we're gonna be slightly over budget because we weren't able to move that money back. So there is a identified source for those non-departmental holdbacks. I kind of just, depending on the year, we may or may not need that.
And as Carrie mentioned earlier, it is kind of an offset. We are now receiving dollars from Lake County that we didn't budget. And those are gonna go right into the fund reserve. And we're gonna draw from the fund reserve if this is approved, but those dollars are going right into the fund reserve also. And additionally, Carrie and her team have been real aggressive with Bronner now in looking at, you know, the 5-year commitment we've made to the election center. And we think about two-thirds, 3/4 of those dollars can be paid for with ARPA because they are responding to the COVID situation that mail-in voting prompted. And Bronner's been supportive of that. So that also is going to strengthen our fund reserve. So it's kind of, in some ways, offset what this move would do. Long term, yeah, these are one-time dollars, and we're making a multi-year commitment to the compensation of the state's attorney's office. But at the end of the day, we got to do one budget at a time, 1 year at a time, and you know, the strength of our fund reserve gives us this flexibility to operate and meet these crises when they present themselves.
Okay, so if I repeat back what I understand that you said, this money is going to be coming from emergency funds that are in the general fund. And what, if we looked at our dollar amount of emergency funds, what is that amount for this year?
Yeah, so it's just pulling from the reserve. So I think our excess reserve is around 6 million.
In the general fund?
In general fund.
I thought it was 12 or 13.
That's over the 6 months.
Okay, okay. Okay, so we're going to be pulling it from the emergency fund and the general fund, of which we have a balance of about...
Fund reserve.
Fund, yes.
Fund reserve, sorry, fund reserve. And we have about a balance of 6 million, and this is...
Over the target of 6 months.
Mhm.
We have 50 million.
Well, right.
Yeah.
I understand what you, yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I want to be able to articulate this to someone who is going to ask about fuel tax, motor fuel tax increase, new growth increase, levy increase. Now we have surplus, and now we are, you know, I don't want it to look like the county is thinking of ways to spend the excess money or spend down money. And I don't think that that's what this is. But I'm not, this is not my discussion. This is my clarification of what is being proposed to fund it. So with that, then can we enter into discussion?
Right ahead.
Okay, so kick off. Does anybody else have anything first?
Matt?
I'd like, well, I mean, I'm interested in letting Terry finish her whole thought, and then I'll respond. Yes.
Okay, so this is my area of expertise, and I am not only supportive because we arguably have the best state's attorney's department in the nation, easily Illinois, and I am not just saying that, and we know that. That's why people move here. And the issues that we have right now with what's gone on at the state level and even the federal level with safety and enforcement, it could not be more important to have the best intellectual property here. By having the best intellectual property, we actually lower our cost. I also know that when you have, you have to keep that, and that costs money. You have to be competitive. And many times over the last 20-some years, I've said, oh, that sucking sound that you hear on our labor force, that's Wisconsin, that's Indiana, that's Iowa, you know. But you can see what happens around when people can easily move out of an area or even commute to an area. So I do think it's very important to respond to this and to respond to it quickly. I know that Cheryl is excellent in her research on the comps. That I'm supportive of. I just want to make sure that we don't have an appearance of magic money that suddenly appears to fund things out of the blue, because it is, I mean, arguably out of the blue. Nobody knew that this was going to happen last October. And that we have to be accountable to taxpayers regarding what's going on. And we have to, as board members, be able to articulate to our constituents what is going on with our money. It can be very confusing, and it's a lot of money in the budget. So that's my position. I'm supportive of it. I want to make sure that every board member can articulate where this money is coming from to support it.
So I acknowledge that the request is large and that I have heard people saying to me this should not be a surprise, that your office should have seen this coming, and that this is not an actual out of the blue case. And my response to the dressing, the desire maybe to dress down and go through now, make the state's attorney like beg us for the money and take a dressing down over things that we could have not spent money on in the past, such as some lawsuits that I didn't support. But the case is this is not approving this budget or this budget item is for it's for the good of the county, right? So saying no just to make a point or to force more concessions maybe from the state's attorney's office is not in the best interest of the county in my view. I agree with Terry exactly that we need to have attorneys that work for the county that want to be here, that have the time and the desire to do the best job that they can do. We don't want them to be susceptible to other pressures or make them do less of a stellar job. It's important that they have experience so that they can make the correct decisions of how they should pursue certain cases. Whether, I have thought that part of the reason we have some inequalities in the justice system is because of a lack perhaps of experience from prosecutors who are too by the book because they just got, they came out of law school and they didn't have the life experience, right? And so I support this, and I am suppressing the desire to use this as a time to dress down the state's attorney's office.
Matt, you're on the phone. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, for me, selling our state's attorney is an easy do. No matter who you talk to, and I'm in agreement, if we don't have the best state's attorney, we have 1, 2, or 3 in this state. That's no issue. Selling his staff and the need for their pay raises in order to deal with the Safety Act, absolutely easy sale. The hard sale part for me and to my constituents is when we have murky areas where the monies come from. So I very much appreciate today's explanation of this, where it's coming from, where it's going to. I have already been in touch with several people, constituents, on the fact saying that we're good with the state attorney's office. We only need to find out where, with some clarity, these monies come from. This meeting today has helped that greatly, and I am a yes to move this forward.
Thank you, Matt. Matt, anything?
Is there a motion?
No, there hasn't been one yet, but I want to say something too.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion and you can continue the discussion.
I'll second the motion.
All right.
That's what I want.
Yeah, seconded. I would only add this to it that many, many years ago, as a young assistant state's attorney downstate, I spent a year and a half doing 18 jury trials in 19 months because that's what they did down there.
Is that Livingston County?
In Livingston County. Pontiac prison cases, Dwight Women's reformatory cases, and as an example, my very first trial was 2 weeks, 2 Fridays after I was sworn in, my boss walked in and said, "You're going to have your first jury trial on Monday. You're never batting 1,000 because this is a loser, but I can't dismiss it." And my very first witness was 3 years old. So at any rate, but after a year and a half, that when it was my turn to leave because I'd gotten that training, I had 2 different chiefs of police in Livingston County call me and yell at me because they finally got me trained and they didn't want me to leave. So I do understand the position. I will say that the salary was dramatically lower than what you're paying people today. That was a long time ago. And I'm in favor of it too, because I do understand that situation. Any other comments from anybody on the board? Okay. And that, Mr.
I want to, just in the interest of transparency, the resolution as drafted by the State's Attorney's Office does not include benefit costs.
Okay.
So, and the Public Defender's Office. So there is an impact on the IMRF fund and Social Security fund to 57,000 for State's Attorney's Office and 17 for Public Defender.
Okay. Well, we'll get that fixed between now and the next week.
We would amend that tomorrow at Finance.
Okay. With that said, I will go to vote. Teresa?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, it'll go forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, that brings us to 7.5. Come on up. Put you in the hot seat too.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Aren't you glad he went first?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we do the same type of work, but on a different side of the aisle, as they say. And throughout the history, it's throughout the state, there's always been a parity, a historical parity between the salaries. We're in the competition for the same pool of people. So that's why my resolution came along. It's I joked with the State's Attorney's Office, it's almost on the coattails of theirs, but it's something that the board should consider, and as opposed to having me come back in a month or 2 months, I brought it now.
Now, I would have thought you would have been opposed to theirs because usually your best defense is that they're inept.
They're inept. On the other hand, we make them look good, so.
Are there, I'm assuming that
I'm
the
making the
finance is going to
motion.
be the same. Go ahead, Pam's making a motion.
No, second the motion.
Teresa will second it. And I'm assuming that most of what we're talking about is the exact same funding, is that correct? All right. Any other additional comments that board members want to make?
We'll amend it, the payroll burden for this one before it goes to, yeah, okay, goes forward, okay.
Are you having, I'm out of order. Are you having the same issue, or how many positions do you currently have open?
We don't have any positions currently open within our office. We're a much smaller office.
Yeah.
We, of course, don't handle the civil things that the State's Attorney's Office does, but we don't have that. But we suffer from the same problems. He talked about Lou. I've never seen in all of my years a reduction in the amount of applicants. I've called out to the schools because I wanted to make sure people were still going to law school. There's no one who's applying. We have quality people in our office, and that's a blessing that we've had, but it's not that way at the other Collier counties. I think we're the only Collier county that's currently fully staffed, but as I said, we're a rather small public defender's office considering the size of the county.
That's what I should have asked the state's attorney too. How long, like what kind of tenure do your attorneys keep at the public? Like, is it a revolving door and we're just always getting new lawyers?
I have some that have been there almost 30 years. I have others that it is a revolving door. They come in and they get the experience and then they move on to other things. That's the nature of the office. What they want to do is a personal thing. The 30-year people they're calling, they have it for the type of work that we do.
Matt, do you have anything?
No, other than a little euphemism. There's all types of different people in this world. Some of them, when startled, run. Some, when startled, freeze. And some, when startled, fight. So this whole thing kind of gets to me with that thing, because when startled with this all information, that's why initially I was dead set against this in law and government. takes a little more analysis to make all of these things work. So I don't like to just knee-jerk reaction, give to one and then give to the other. But in this case, I do see that to retain good people on both sides of the fence, we will need these monies.
Thanks, Matt. Ready to vote? Okay. Terry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes care of the routine consent agenda. Brings us to a discussion of space needs analysis.
Oh. And wasn't this also, Terry, wasn't this also discussed at finance too? The need for a space analysis? I thought that
Yes.
Chairman Scala had talked about that too, or at least he did at the board meeting.
Well, and I was not at the last.
Don't lean on all the papers, Scott.
I,
Oh,
yeah.
Workers' comp,
Yes.
can I get a
yes.
cleaner?
Well, we did have, listen to the last board meeting,
At the last board meeting.
were adamant that you were
I'm doing, this is, yes.
make sure that this becomes an issue.
Right, yes, and I apologize, that's right, you did make, that was the conversation.
So we're just continuing that, and
Good, yes, I was glad to see it on the agenda, I was like, oh, right away, I don't have to ask for it.
Scott brought this in some ways for, drama. But this is kind of intended to demonstrate, it was about 6 years ago when the county board was it was about 6 years ago, Joe? I mean, we were really scrambling to figure out where we were going to place folks. We tore down the Annex B facility in the front of the courthouse and relocated staff there, and we adjusted things over in Annex A. We moved the health department into this building. I'm taking all your thunder right now. So you roll.
You got your
Thank you. Stuff.
Thank you. Well,
Put that thumbtack in there to get you out of the way.
yeah. So as Pete was saying, the county's been looking at space for quite a while. This is just somewhat for dramatic purposes, but just to say that it's nothing new, not a new concept for the county. In 2017, we engaged Kluber, which was an architect, to look at space needs analysis. As Pete mentioned, we had Annex B, which was in the front of this building, 7,000 square feet of health department space that was in really bad shape, and that needed to go, and the question was, how do we manage that space with the other needs? And so this study was commissioned to look at some of the opportunities. We were able to make some changes into this building by reducing the recorder space. That allowed environmental health to be put into this building, free up space in Annex A, and we were able to move those services over. So we just kind of did.
Nursing moved from Annex B to Annex A.
Correct. So we were able to accomplish that. This gave us some guidance, but really this study took a look at more holistically, kind of the foot traffic that different offices have, the amount of touch and contact that they have with members of the public, at the other agencies, with internal. And when you do a space analysis, this represents a very comprehensive approach to the space analysis. As of late, we've come into some needs with storage, which required us to lease some space in Lake County. You just approved an election center. We're really excited about that because that frees up space, in this building to run the elections moving forward. Our state's attorney and public defender just sat before you talking about their salaries. Well, I'm also having conversations with them about their space. And if you haven't visited their areas, I would strongly encourage you to. It is, as Member Eltoff is putting in, it's very tight, very challenging. So we're going to look at some immediate opportunities to free up some space so that they can have not only office, but also
Camille wants a courtroom.
investigations. And yes,
We have one more judge than we have courtrooms open.
so yes, and then we got the judiciary saying they do want one more courtroom. So we have a lot of things that are in play, and we're going to have to look at immediately. So separate apart from the space analysis, but to really do it right, we're looking at some of these options. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what we're going to present as a possible solution to the county board yet, because we're still looking at that. But the bigger question is, some of these may be deemed as, an interim approach or just a fix. And is there a larger solution? So if you want to do it right, the way to do it right is to think in that long-term solution. Look at some of the opportunities that we're going to have with respect to our existing campus, because the county actually does own a fair amount of land in and around. And that opens up some opportunity. When the election center goes in, we have our building on Ware Road called the Clem Building. Basically, it's an old pole barn. It can be outfitted for office space, but you're gonna make a lot of investment into a building that really wasn't designed for that. So, that's a different discussion. But you have land, you have opportunity. You have this building designed for possible expansion to build, a similar wing that we're in now going west. So there's some things that are already put in place. And the question is, what is the best use and what is going to be ultimately that need? So in light of all those recent requests for space, and I think it's fair for the county board to ask the question, should we be thinking about this more comprehensively? To do so would be, to do a comprehensive space analysis, to engage an outside consultant, because we do not have the expertise or the capacity internally to do it. But you also have an objective set of eyes that can look at things from differently than what we may see. That is something that we can do. We can either do that moving forward very soon, start the process soon, or it's something that when you look at your strategic plan next year, you could engage that as a strategic plan goal to do your space analysis. It's not something that gets done in a couple months. This takes a long time. And the dramatic purpose of this just shows you a lot of the background studies and questionnaires and information that is solicited from our different departments about what they do and how they do it and what they need, what they see on the horizon, what are some of the challenges, what are some of the mandates that are coming forward, and just to assess all that, put that into the mix, and then come out with a rational recommendation. This takes a while. This study, which is, I believe it's the June 2016 study, cost just shy of $18,000 in 2016. To give you some sense of what that would cost. And that, I'll tell you, that was kept down because a lot of this paperwork was done with staff assistants. So we had a lot of touch, and it took a lot of time to do some of the background information for the consultant. And really, we just wanted to put that concept on the table to get you thinking about that. Is that something that, as Administrative Services Committee, who has oversight of the county facilities, is this something that you'd want to consider moving forward sooner, or consider maybe looking at it in a strategic plan? I'll shut up and defer to questions.
Just from the recommendations made in 2016, how many of those have we already implemented? Did we meet every one? Are we done? Is there still something left?
No, there's plenty. To be honest with you, I did not get a chance to really provide the specific answer to that question of what is in here, what have we done. Really, it looks, and it looked at a lot of different offices and provided some solutions, one of which included building onto the courthouse.
Right.
As we just mentioned, state's attorney, public defender, additional courtroom. So that was something that was contemplated. But we haven't done anything with those areas.
So I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, how long would it take us to do an analysis of that compared to what's been done since then, and what's outstanding and what new needs have arisen since then? I mean, I'd like to know, if we spent $18,000, let's use that information and kind of update it with what's happened, and then maybe where do we go from there? Is that, I mean.
Yeah, we probably should dive into that a little bit deeper and see what was left undone. Some of the things we did accomplish because of that study, we moved community development from where
the health department administration is.
Into PD, and we squished PD really tight in there.
I know that. I've been in those offices.
But that allowed us to move health administration from across the street into this building, which allowed us to move the environmental health from across the street into this building, which allowed us to bring nursing from Annex B into Annex A. So we did accomplish a lot with that. And other things that are out there, we are spending $40,000 a year in lease space at specialty courts at 500 plus. And so we would love to not do that.
Right. I just from past and some of the conversations, I think that analysis is what the board anticipates and expects before we go forward and try and figure out what the next solution is. What do we have? How much are we spending? What's the cost benefit? Just so you know, I mean, I think the discussion is relevant, but I think it's limited because we don't have all that information.
Well, for example, could we get a list of all of the facilities that we're renting, either for office space or storage? Just to know,
Yeah,
and then get an idea of what that expenditure is, because we're obligated to those leases. They're on a liability, as a liability. And then we were talking about what was already done and perhaps things that are there and how would they compare to what we're doing right now. Those are the types of things. You're so good at allowing us to see a picture on a spreadsheet or however you want, graphs on a PowerPoint. And,
Well, I was a cartoonist in high school, so.
So,
Okay, stick figures, whatever.
yeah, but I think that would be a good first step, just so that we could kind of know. I don't think anybody's interested in engaging us, spending money on a cost analysis until we would even know what question we're asking, where we stand.
Right.
So,
This is, and let me say, 100%, and we just put it on the agenda because
Yes.
it bubbled up. And
Yeah.
we're not here saying, let's do a space study, we're just saying, just to frame the
This is
thinking.
material that we currently have, although I don't think any of us physically have
I've
it.
never seen it, yeah.
But there's something that we need to keep in mind about this. In 2016, the mindset of the county board and the approach of the county board was slightly different than it was when we actually enacted some of the changes. This incorporates or contemplates a certain degree of expanding the footprint to meet some of these additional needs. When we actually moved forward, the thought process then, and this is, let's say 2018, and there was to say, we're not going to expand our footprint, we're going to contract and we're going to make use of our space. So the philosophy, or I should say the approach of the county board was slightly different. And, when this contemplates expansion of space, some of the things may have been addressed, but in other means than was recommended here. So to the question of what was done, I think really what I'd like to approach it is say, okay, of the needs that were identified here, what needs still remain? And that, I think, would be better to your consideration.
Same general thought process, just stated differently. But I still think the cost analysis and benefit needs to be done. I understand where you go from let's just expand to, oh, whoa, that's, gazillions of dollars. We're not going to do that because we have different priorities. I don't have a problem with any of that, but I think that's up to this group now to reevaluate and decide how we're going to go forward, which is, I think, kind of sort of what we've, right?
Right, and my other point is too, is that in my time on the board, I feel like we approve leases, well, I often talk about speak to the fact that most of what we do on the board is just to agree to pay the bills. Right, but we see the bills one at a time, and it's not, I never look at it as a large picture, and I realize I personally could keep my own spreadsheet, of all the things I approve, right, through the course of a year. But I feel like there's a lot of leases, and it's just these stuff, and I think that they are not a good use of tax money.
Yeah, there's really not that many. We have the election center, we have the storage in Lake County, we have 400 Russell, which is this Office of Specialty Courts. ROE space, and Karen, am I missing any operational space? I know we lease storage space from MCCD, the Lost Valley, I think, area for just when they swap out equipment from winter to summer operations. But that's an intergovernmental agreement. But we'll get that list. That's, I think, very helpful.
It would be really good.
It's not that many though, I'll tell you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right, and then also I've heard different departments, predominantly the health department, talk about how they don't like being spread out so much, right? So they're piecemealed in places they maybe don't want to be piecemealed to. So hearing, like actually knowing what the department has wanted, because I think a lot of times things get filtered to us after they've gone through a process before they get to us. So we don't necessarily know the full conversation when we get here. All right.
Well, I would say summarize what was the plan in 2016 versus what our needs are today, and we'll talk about it, in the next meeting.
It's a good conversation.
Yeah, well, the tail end of that question, what our needs are today, that's
I understand
something we
you
still
don't
need
get all
more
of that,
understanding.
but you've got some requests.
Yeah.
We know that. And I'm not expecting you to go out and survey all 27 department heads and say
Thank
if you could write your own, space, what would it look like? I want to know what needs we know about today.
Well, yeah, we know that there's certain squishiness in areas, you know that.
It's, conceptually, yeah, and I appreciate that direction. And that's really what we wanted to do, is just to kind of find out what we want to do as next steps as a committee, what you want to see for next steps. And like I said, we're not here saying dive into a space analysis. I don't know if that's right either, but I think I got good, clear direction. I look forward to the assignment.
And can I ask, can you also then make sure that that's shared with the finance committee, which also had major discussions about a space need capacity study?
Send it to everybody, it's okay.
Well, I just want to make sure we're doing the loop, you know, I mean, I know that conversation came out of a lot of those conversations, it's here, but they need to be informed, we had a conversation.
It's true. Oftentimes someone says to me, did you see this thing? And I say, no, I'm not on that committee. So, I would like to be inundated with information.
All right.
ED update.
Thank you.
Come on away.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Doing pretty well. How about you?
Pretty good.
Good. I apologize. I had COVID a couple weeks ago, so my throat's still a little goofy, but
Just stay over that side.
I'll stay over here. It's been about 20 days now, but I brought a short PowerPoint presentation. Oh, shoot. Because I wanted to give you something much more interesting to look at than just me. Thanks, Greg.
Which one is it?
2024 EV.
Okay. Do you want to use a clicker?
I'd love to if it's available.
Yeah, just a second.
Sorry, I was prepping this as recently as last night, so Greg and I didn't have a chance to run through this right now. Thank you. Sure, yeah, thank you. Great. Thank you, Greg. Member Kunkel, are you able to see this as well?
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone. I'm sorry. I apologize. Just checking. Just wanted to make sure. That's all right. I'll try to do my best to explain what you're seeing here. Well, thank you for this opportunity to discuss this. I wanted to preface, this is really just an update and information for you as to where we are. But we're going to start with today an introduction to meet the team, kind of who's been working on this. We'll review the plan such as it is today. For the first time, we do have a vehicle bid price comparisons for you. We went out this year at the request of the Sheriff's Office and added a partial hybrid electric vehicle to the bid for the first time. So we actually have that information. From there, we'll kind of do a what's next, and then I'll open it up to a Q&A if you're interested. First, yours truly, Director of Procurement Special Services. Special Services entails this kind of section of the capital plan, which includes electric vehicles and any other improvements we're making. But Mr. Burrows, of course, we've been working with him on facilities because this will impact facilities, no question. I also want to give a big shout out to Rob Richardson and Ben Justin, the fleet manager and DOT's maintenance supervisors, respectively. They've been involved in this too. We're not going to not just do the facilities, but this involves vehicles as well. So we want to make sure that we're working with the fleet managers at both DOT and Sheriff in particular to get their input as well. And it really drives the bid that you'll see a little bit later about the cars that are available and where they might be coming from. Because we're not just talking about facility infrastructure, we're talking about vehicle infrastructure as well. Plan reviews, what are we planning? 2024 is really going to be a year of planning and review. We're looking at electric vehicle infrastructure to be engineered along with parking lot improvements at this building in 2025. That's in your capital plan for this year. We're going to engineer those parking lots, especially the south side, for 2025. As a minimal part of that engineering analysis, we're going to have options put in there for them to give us what it would cost to install either on the east or the west sides, some electric vehicle charging stations. I want to emphasize, this is going to be a thoughtful build-out. We're not going to put 20 charging stations out there when we can't even get the vehicles today. But what we would do is we'd use that opportunity with the facility improvement to make sure conduit and power are available should we need to pull lines in the future. So as we add vehicles, we'd actually add a charging station or add another charging station with 2 more vehicles. That type of thoughtful build out. But I also want to emphasize that that will be done as funds are approved by the board. We're not just going to rush into this. We're not just putting it in for the sake of putting it in. That will come to you with every other improvement and every other vehicle purchase you have. You'll be given the option to say up or down, kind of on it. We're only going to add charging stations as vehicles are available and authorized for purchase. Very, very limited options. Most of them for hybrid electric and electric vehicles right now are in the retail space, if at all. There's no government pricing on most of these, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the vehicles. And again, some caveats. At DOT, only supervisor and engineering fleets are being reviewed. No plow trucks are available. And certainly at the sheriff's office, no pursuit vehicles are included at this time. But we'll give you an option with the vehicles because there is it's not our fleet, but there is a bid for a hybrid electric pursuit rated vehicle out there. It's a lot going on. So our first bid for electric vehicles, this is kind of where it gets interesting to me. We'll dive in. As you can see here, wanted to give you a few options. I grabbed 2. I grabbed our bid and then the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative, whom I've been working with for probably 20 years of my career at this point. But right down here, you'll see this is the Suburban Purchasing. It's a Chevy Equinox 1.5 liter 4-cylinder front wheel drive. It's only $26,000. We don't run that in our fleet, but I had this conversation when I was in Skokie, when Evanston went heavy into electric and that spilled into Skokie. And I sat down with Mayor Van Dusen and I said, Mayor, please understand, you still have what I call disposable vehicles available. They're low cost, they use minimal gas, they're efficient, they're the right size. They're not fancy by any means, but they're dependable. And when they're done, you get rid of them. They're not worth a lot, but you use them for what you can.
Kind of inspector vehicle.
Yeah, and that works. Going to the county bid here, we have a regular Chrysler Pacifica front-wheel drive. That's what we were asked to bid. And then we have a partial hybrid electric vehicle. As you can see, the regular Pacifica is $41,000, hybrid electric Pacifica is $52,000. I put the next 3 on there just for reference. That's the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative. Chevy Bolt full electric is unavailable through them. It's retail access only. You have to go to a dealer to get it if they have it on the lot. There's no government pricing for that. The next is a Ford F-250, gas-powered vehicle with your choice of engine, $41,000, and then that is a Ford Explorer Pursuit Hybrid at $47,600. This is why I said this is really more for your information today. I don't believe that any one of these options is the best for us right now. It also isn't the fleet that the county runs. But these are options that are available, bid competitively by either the county ourselves or joint purchasing opportunities in the region that we have access to. That's the vehicle situation. It's really kind of messy still, and we don't have the ability to get full electric vehicles without going to the retail market as it sits right now. They're not offering government pricing. The Stellantis fleet that the county runs, they're not offering government pricing for a lot of things. They only just started offering government pricing again for the pursuit vehicles. We don't have a lot of options. But what we're planning to do, so I'll bring it back a little bit. What's next? What we're gonna do looking ahead, because of the car situation as well as the fleet improvements, the facility improvements, we're not really looking to do anything until 2025. So 2024, this is approximate, and that's why I say it's approximate. July, the next quarters, the next 4 quarters or so. We're gonna engineer the parking lots. That's in your capital plan for next year anyway. The money's in the capital plan this year to engineer the parking lots. It's not gonna cost us any more in the engineering to have them engineer an electric vehicle review of what that would be for this building. The rest of the year, we're gonna start looking with, we're gonna work with ComEd as the need might be when some facilities come on, they will need ComEd improvements. Again, those costs would come to you for approval before we would go ahead and approve those. Continue into 2025, and of course review and revise costs and budget as we go. We know that there are other opportunities for some funding. We have to look a little harder at those and see where they would apply, but we definitely want to bring those to lower the cost of the county as much as we can as we go forward. And then the 2025 budget, we'll refine those costs and present that to you at the end of the year. 2025, continue working with others and ComEd, break ground pending board approval. And then as the ground thaws, we would look to install charging stations only as vehicles are available. And the vehicles would also come to you as part of a bid or the budget for next year on the non-sheriff department line item of the capital plan. So that's really it. Thank you for your time. I hope I didn't take too much, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Please,
Is there a state or federal mandate that we do this?
Oh my God,
Then
Shannon.
why on earth would we be doing this? Because Hertz just canceled all of their EVs. I own an EV and it's more of I just wanted to, it had nothing to do with.
Sure.
Because when I bought it, my license was $60 for every 2 years. Now my license is $250 a year. The cost of running it are more than gas. I had a project that I was pursuing as an individual for electric power, with solar roof
yeah, right.
on a barn. And when I started looking at this in 2021, the projected cost was $27,000 to construct it. And it just dragged on and on and on because labor wasn't available and parts weren't available. The final price that I got last month was $136,000. I mean, from $27,000. It's almost like a bait and switch. This is obviously a foolish pursuit because this is not, if it's great, and there are no subsidies that can compensate for the ongoing costs of it.
Not for government.
And then we get locked in. There's all sorts of issues with, all sorts of issues. We're talking about the weather, all of that. I didn't have any of that, but I just do not understand why we would take a pile of money and go to the casino and start playing craps with people's money. This is not a tried and true technology or market. And if it is going to be great, those prices are going to tumble and it's going to be more competitive and available and all of that. If it's good, it'll be shown. I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping tabs on it, but to actually do this, I just don't understand. So that's why I was wondering if it's mandated.
It's not mandated. It is part of the environmentally friendly initiatives of the board's strategic plan, I'll say. So what we did is we've looked.
Electricity comes from.
Fair enough.
Come on.
That's why we looked at this. But as I told you,
Yeah.
we haven't spent any of this money yet.
Yeah.
We're going to do the study on the parking lot, and we'll have those options. So we're not. I wouldn't say we've dove in head first into this yet.
Well, true. I mean, I appreciate that. Being environmentally friendly is a fallacy. I mean, you still have to power it.
And forgive me, I don't know the verbiage, the exact verbiage in the strategic plan.
No, I know, but
that's
I mean,
what it
this whole thing, I mean, the whole green thing, that is all under debate and question. It's nothing that you could bank on because you still have to have the electricity to power them. And then where do we get electricity? And then who's competing with that electricity?
Solar, right? I'm just gonna jump in. I've heard this same concern expressed by other board members in other conversations, and I appreciate the fact that this is a very measured, board-engaged approach. I just think that that's exactly what we have to do regardless of what it is. So I appreciate the fact that,
I do.
You guys are kind of reflecting that and giving us the opportunity to reevaluate. I personally think that we're gonna come up with 6 more, positive ways to save on energy, whatever they may be that someone hasn't even thought of yet. But again, I really appreciate that and thanks very, very much. Nice presentation.
Yes.
And you're not the only one who has expressed that concern.
Well, and I mean, my personal, 26,000 to 136,000 in a period of 21 to 24.
It's materials too.
That's right. I mean, to that point, I put 23 panels on my house for $10,000. And for the large majority of my electric bill has been pulled up by those solar panels. So, the commentary, it's not just from Ms. Greeno, it's from others, is that, well, we're being powered by coal and nuclear and, not environmentally friendly message. You're moving towards more and more solar power. So,
Well, we don't actually have any coal up here. We have natural gas, but we don't have any coal in this part.
But your point is well
right,
understood.
yeah, because that's the cleanest. That's what the comment always is. Oh, this isn't really environmentally friendly because we're not getting electricity. More and more electricity is coming from wind and solar, and so I don't think it's an honest conversation to say electric cars aren't cleaner than gas-fueled cars, right? And the cost. So I appreciate this, the technique that you're following. I appreciate it. And the debate back and forth amongst board members about what actually is environmentally friendly isn't really your purview, right? You're just giving us information and then we'll fight about it.
I hope you feel I just gave you information and let you have the conversation.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Learn some fights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 4 more reports and an executive session. So capital plan update, come on up.
Hello. We can start down in Cary at the gun range. There'll be fitting equipment beginning February 19th. So the range equipment has been coming in, it's been being stored at the regional training facility, and will be being installed beginning on the 19th of this month. There's a ComEd and NICOR haven't terminated into the building yet, and there isn't a clear date established, although there's a lot of pressure on them to get this done. They, being who they are, don't always respond to pressure like some of us do. So there's a constant effort to get that date. It seems like they're close. They have the engineering for both of those pieces are complete. They say their equipment is en route. It's a bit of a mystery. I'm not a fan of mysteries in this regard, but we'll see when they confirm that their termination. ComEd and NICOR. NICOR is fairly easy. They have their pathway into the building. They just need to schedule a crew to pull their pipe through that pathway. ComEd's just a little less clear on that. We're working, as you know, on some court services, interior renovation. That's tracking well on schedule. The part of the component that adds security to where the clients come in to make their appointment, complete their appointments, is just about done. The drywall is complete, the cabinetry is installed, and the glazing should be going in, I believe, on the 19th. So about another week and a half out, we'll be transitioning over to the, which would be the larger component of the work off of this waiting room. So that work's going well. Jail chiller pre-purchase and installation. The contractor will mobilize right now on February 28th, begin their work. They've been out, they've done all their measuring for piping, etc. Chiller arrival date is March 5th. Startup of that equipment after it's piped should be at the end of March. March 27th is what the schedule's showing now. And then there'll be a period of commissioning thereafter where we'll validate that the equipment is running as it should. And that work we're showing to be done in April 12th, which is great. That's our schedule. That's what we wanted to accomplish, and it looks like we're there. This weather that we have now continues. The schedule we can meet. If it reverts to -12 next week, well, we'll adjust, but we have some room in our schedule to allow for that. Valley High Memory Care Wing, we have steel being set now, today. They will complete the roof framing assembly here in early next week. The concrete deck will be poured on top of that steel framing. That's there to prevent, it's for fire purposes mainly. And then the roofing contractor will be, right now, we're showing them to arrive on February 22nd. So glazing will be about that time as well. then we'll get the mason back in, weather should be warming up. And right now, the punch list for that project is showing on the schedule to be November 6th that week beginning. We'll see. At this point, I think things should track like that. We should be out of the by the way stage. Most of that kind of stuff has been worked out. So I think we'll be going along well there. Archive storage, which will be a lease that we can not continue on. We have we're renting some space to store health department equipment and materials. Racking for that should be going in the week, next week, and take about a week to get done. We're going to go out for bid to get the asphalt put down in the gravel that's there now, and that work will be finished. So spring of this year, we'll be able to move that materials out of the lease space and into that building. And that wraps up the projects that we're currently working on. As you know, there's some other resolutions and some other ideas out there that we're working on and that other departments are working on as well.
Questions? Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
HR?
Well, there's a lot on the agenda, so I'll kind of condense this. I was going to do longer, but I'll shorten. A couple of exciting things that are kind of in the works. One of them is under recruitment, and Pete, you don't even know this one yet. We had a we had a really good meeting yesterday. We've been talking a lot about trying to get into the schools and making the schools aware of county government as an employer, a place to prepare your future with. We had a meeting yesterday, and Justin from District 155, and her name is Veronica. They talked to us about micro internships. They have a class where they have about 200 students who need to do micro internships. They're unpaid. They're 20 hours, and it puts the students in an employer's place. And they said they didn't realize that we actually meet all 16 of their categories of jobs. We meet all 16 of them here at the county, and they were very excited. And one of the examples they gave is they just had somebody come into the office and say, she really wants to work with animals. And I was like, we got animal control. And they hadn't really thought about animal control as being part of the county. So they were getting excited, and so now they've asked if we would do a meeting with all of the career-oriented people from all of the high schools and middle schools in McHenry County and educate those educators on what does McHenry County do? What kind of employment do we have? And then the next phase is, and we had kind of been talking about this before, but Justin is like, I will help you do this, but in this early June is when we're hoping to do it, where he's checking with MCC, is to do a McHenry County Government Career Expo where parents would bring their students in, and we would be side by side with tables with MCC. So if we have a healthcare area with the health department and Valley High, that there's also an MCC table that says, and we provide these kind of classes. So there's some really good and exciting ideas on the table, and I think they're going to become reality, and we're going to get in and educate the parents and the students and the educators about what does McHenry County government have to offer as far as employment. So there's a lot that'll come down from that, so that was really exciting. So that's under recruitment. Under retention, let's see, we've had several brainstorming groups in the last year, and two of the programs actually three programs have evolved out of those, and one of them is the career development program. There's 20 people who are now part of that program. It's a 12-month program, an hour a month. Really nice series of videos that Alessandra, who's our our HR coordinator that you guys approved, thank you again, that was good. That mentorship program has had a second meeting, very good return, good comments on that one. And the mentorship program, we now have a mentorship program. We have a pilot program that's kicking off. We have 5 mentorship pairs, and we'll follow those 5 pairs very closely and evaluate that program and develop it from there. So that program is on way. The other one is, recently we had a group of supervisors and managers, department heads come together and look at how do we train our supervisors. And we have a lot of information that a new supervisor should be exposed to within their first 6 months, a lot. Part of it can be done countywide with people from all departments, and part of it should be done by their department. So we actually broke it out into 6 sessions that we're going to do countywide. The second one is happening this month. We had an overflow room on our first one. We were kind of surprised. Scott and Alicia did an excellent job in presenting what is the structure of McHenry County, the departments, how does the county board work, just making sure that they understand who is their employer. It's not their department, it's McHenry County, and where do you fit in it, and what's the strategic plan. The next one we're going into are just some of the basics about communicating with employees, performance reviews. Suzanne, help me, I just blanked on all the other pieces. Anyway, there's a nice agenda that we're going to be doing this month on the 23rd. We already have close to 45 people who said that they're coming. Again, it's going to be, we're going to have to find a new room.
Overflow, we had take a wall down.
Yeah, we had an overflow room.
Which should make you so happy that there's that kind of interest, which means
Oh my
that
gosh.
it was right,
Yes.
right? I mean, it was the right
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did it, it was nice, we did it in like an hour 40, I mean, Leslie
Yeah.
wasn't all afternoon thing, but it was well done. Scott and Lacey did great, Cheryl did a good job.
I'm going to interrupt you. Can I also ask a favor?
Yes.
Can you make sure that those people who did participate, and many of these programs came out of some of those meetings and suggestions, can you make sure that you share with them that they realize that you listened
Yeah.
and it made a difference?
Yes.
And this is what's growing, and they should, again, encourage other people when that opportunity exists to participate?
Yes.
Yeah, because, I mean, I really thought it was extraordinarily well done and good ideas. So thank you for
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that's one of the things that we've really tried to incorporate with employees is that there are opportunities, and when those opportunities happen, we really listen and respond. Whether it's coming into a group or responding to a survey, we really do listen and respond. And I think that's they hear that. And I think that's had good feedback. And then just finally under benefits, again, as you know, the compensation study is underway. I hope to have those results back in May, so I can start talking with the departments and then have a resolution to you so that it could be, the results be approved and be effective on July 1. So the compensation study is in the works. Good news on the wellness screenings, and this is something we've really been growing. So in 2022, we had 319 people participate in our wellness screenings. Last year, we had 562. This year, we've had 662. Really good returns. My goal was 750. It's not going to happen this year. But that's a magic number. That 725, 750 is a magic number because IPBC, the health insurance co-op that we're part of, rewards us for having people go through wellness screenings. And right now, the reward that we get is $200 per person to support wellness programming. If we hit that magic 75%, which is about, that 725, it's $400 return for each person who participates in wellness, which means, again, we can improve our wellness programming. One of the things that we changed with our wellness programming, last year we tried a program where we said departments can apply for a grant to tap into some of that $200 that we got back. But people kind of struggled with that. They couldn't figure out what would we apply for. I don't know how much money there is, so it was kind of confusing. So this year we flipped the table. This year we said For every person in your department who participates in the wellness program, we will put $50 in a pot. And so in my department, there's 7 people, so we have $350. So we have up to $350 to do some kind of wellness program that meets standards of a wellness program to do that. Police department already has over $10,000 in their pot. They have increased their participation immensely. So again, we'll see. That's a sizable amount of money. They wanted a pickleball court at one time. I don't know if that's still on the agenda or not.
But can they use that for the purchase of equipment and things like that?
If it's wellness, the wellness committee is going to set up a set of rules.
Okay.
And if it's wellness-based, the wellness committee would review that and probably approve that, yes. Yeah.
We're not going to lease it.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
So the departments now I think we're now looking at, well, I've got this much money. Now I can kind of figure out what might I do with that. So again, the wellness committee is looking at what are some of the rules and regulations about what kind of standards do those monies have to meet. And I think we will be having a new EAP coming in April.
What's EAP stand for?
Our Employee Assistance Program. So one of the things that came out of the employee surveys way back was they felt that the typical EAP, which was drug and alcohol assistance, they wanted a much more comprehensive program. We moved to a more comprehensive program. Since then, we've moved to another provider, and now we're moving to one, hopefully this is our last one, it's CompPsych through IPBC. They have a very strong law enforcement component. So there's a PTSD kind of services. And again, there's some legislation coming down that may require us to have that anyway. So this new CompPsych EAP would meet some of the standards that are coming down this law enforcement.
Yeah, the legislation is requiring law enforcement be afforded these.
Access to, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this new EAP, which will come in April, so it's something we're going to have to educate the employees on. Again, we're switching EAPs again. But it's a comprehensive EAP that provides some of the basic legal, financial, just a whole comprehensive.
Does it also give access to family members?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
So if you've got family members that, live, going to school somewhere else, they're still part of it, yes, yeah. So that's updates. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice job. I can't tell you how unbelievably proud I am that all of that stuff was implemented and done well. And I just think that's an investment in, employees, and it doesn't come out to dollars and cents, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It really is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do anyone of high school students want to do a space analysis, Michael intern?
There you go. I'd be scared of the results of that.
Before we move on,
We know they'd all do it from home.
Cheryl mentioned the supervisor training. I happen to have extra copies of the handout. If you'd be interested, I can give it to you.
I'd like
We don't throw anything away. Why waste it, right? So,
Thank you.
yeah, we can just see just the big picture discussion that we had.
I love it.
That brings us to communications.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So if you'd like a paper copy of my report that's attached online, here you are. But I'll get right into this. Here you are. So, communications. You'll be pleased to know that many of your communications offices and various departments across the county participated in an emergency management training exercise that was organized through FEMA and its Emergency Management Institute. This was a national exercise, and we partnered with Mercy Health as well to go over what the county would do if there were a power outage, which is actually very forefront in the news right now, considering what's going on with the Lurie Children's Hospital. It was an eye-opening exercise, and I think we all learned a lot, and we discussed different ways as communications officers that we can improve our services in the event of a power outage in our last communications meeting that was held on Monday. I'd like to thank the EMA for facilitating this training for us. They did a really great job for us. On other news, county administration staff has been collaborating closely with Treasurer Donna Kurtz to ensure that her senior property tax deferral program has been publicized and made aware and made available to the public. And we put out a couple press releases for her and various social media posts. It's also been picked up by the Northwest Herald and the McHenry Chronicle. Communications of note. So I understand that as elected officials, there's one issue, just one, that really seems to get elected officials in office or out of office in this area. And that is how well your roads are plowed. It's true, you laugh, but it's true. And this past month, we had a very large snow event, about a foot of snow in McHenry County, and county administration staff was really impressed with the work that the DOT did, so we took it upon ourselves to put out a social media post thanking the DOT for our hard work they did. And it went insane. And when I insane, it reached almost 80,000 accounts in this area. And what's unusual about that is not so much the number, that kind of thing is possible, but having it be so overwhelmingly positive on social media is what is truly exceptional. That account, reaching almost 80,000 people, had 1,400 likes, 200 loves on it. It had 95 comments. And they were overwhelmingly positive. So I thought you would find that of interest, and we're very proud of our DOT. The good work they do. I'd also like to go over a little bit of the growth and reach that we have on our social media accounts right now. In part due to a lot of strong posts this past month, we had a 394 follower increase in the month period in the January month period. To give you an idea, that's almost half of our annual growth in Facebook alone. So, huge increase to. I'm sorry?
Bring Groundhog Day back.
Actually, it wasn't. Actually, it was a lot of it was the DOT. It was Groundhog Day. It was Norgy. There were various posts. Yeah, there are various posts that really, boosted our accounts over this time. But again, it was a good month. Instagram increased, and Twitter did as well. So did LinkedIn. And as for the reach, Facebook reach was off the charts, obviously. Instagram didn't do as well this past month, but Twitter and LinkedIn were increased over last. You can see in the last page that I've got the top 3 posts by channel, by reach and engagement. You can see what the popular content was. Yes, the snowplow drivers really did top the list. But there are various other posts that did well too, from the warming centers. By the way, I would like to note that we also did collaborate with the Emergency Management Agency to put out information about warming centers so that the public knew where to go in case, they needed to shelter from the cold. And we also did collaborate to distribute information about the closing that happened this past month. So I forgot to include that collaboration. But that information also went very far as well. And I'd like to thank our county board members who, shared that information, because I know a lot of y'all did. And that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about what you would like to know more about in relation to communications, I'm more than happy to discuss it further.
I have 2 comments.
Yes.
I lived in McHenry County since 1981, or well, actually in the county, not that long, but the area. Always wanted to go to Norby. Been curious about the whole groundhog thing up in Woodstock. Went to both of them this year because of what you posted on the Natural in McHenry. And we had friends from the Cheddar Curtain wanted to come down they actually thought that the film, Groundhog Day, was filmed in Puxatawny because of they found out that it was in Woodstock, and they're like, oh, you live there, we're coming. So we were all up at 3 and 4 in the morning and spent the whole day Friday. I mean, from that time until like 8 o'clock at night, the whole getting brutal. I mean, it could all be done by 8 a.m., but we did the whole thing, watched the movie, all of it. It was just so much fun, and they're just like, wow, you live in a really cool place. And these are people from Sheboygan, so you're competing and Sheboygan.
We've actually had individuals who practiced or were part of Norgy participate in the Olympics.
Yes, right.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, it's a big deal, much more so than people realize.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be quick. 3 things. FEMA is divided into 10 sections around the country, and they've created these regional advisory councils, and I get to be chair of FEMA Region 5, which is Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. So our first meeting's next week. I'm really looking forward to it. FEMA's they're trying to create these regional advisory councils to get stronger local connections and stronger local EMAs. So it's a lot of county administrator, city manager, EMA director types, but there's about 30 of us that are on this commission. So looking forward to that. Yesterday, got to go down to Springfield with the McCog lobbying trip. They're down there because IML is lobbying all day today. But because our Council of Governments is so connected with the county, they wanted me to come down there to visit with the governor. We did have a half hour with the governor. We got to talk about the RTA reform and, you know, making sure that suburban voice is not lost in whatever comes. And we talked about that. We talked about the local government distributed formula. We talked about 2390 and how important it is to be getting the infrastructure down there so the state can recoup the benefits. You know, the state invested a lot of money in that interchange, as did the county. But it's not worth anything until we get the water sewer down there and ComEd and NICOR. So kind of emphasizing that. And then we spend a little bit of time just kind of bragging about the county coordinator position and what we're doing with the regional training center and the regional firing range and the public safety social workers.
Talk about we should get the rest of the social worker
Yeah,
money.
we mentioned that. Yeah,
Thank you.
And that does not have a bill number yet, but Representative Ness is working on it.
Right, right. And can I ask his response to the suburban representation and what he told you about LGDF, which just tickles me to no end?
Well, on LGDF, you know, the common response is that there's new monies with gaming and cannabis, and kind of countered that really isn't replacing it. It is new money, but it's not anywhere near the same amount. So Mark Koenig, Mayor Koenig was very effective in making those points. I should note, I was with Village President Debbie Sassine, Village President Rick Mack, and Mayor Mark Koenig, and along with Sheila. So
And that he also was the only governor that ever did increase it.
yeah, okay, yeah, he did say that, because we went up 1/10 to 1%.
I laughed too.
You guys take that.
That was very funny.
We would also take that, right, if we did. Oh, yeah.
I know.
But whatever, he was the governor.
I wasn't being critical, I thought it was funny.
Yes.
The last thing I would know, we do have a vacancy on your ethics commission, and we do have 2 applicants, so opportunity, maybe we can do interviews next month.
I just sent an email this week finding, how do we get the application? How do we I was looking all over the county board site and I couldn't find it.
It's boards and commissions applications, right?
Right, maybe, I can actually show you a graphic on that. We did post on social media about that.
Okay, I sent it to Cheryl. I don't know why, but I did. I was trying to
I
find
can
it.
show you after the meeting.
Just.
How to get there.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe.
When do they have to be in? I've had some in.
Kind of, that one's with vacancies is they're generally rolling, but we need them in a certain number of days before the next.
The application deadline for this month is Wednesday, February 21st.
Okay, great, thanks.
It's not, you know, the board can function with a vacancy, but it'd be nice to, we don't have anything imminent, but you never know. That calendar doesn't follow a calendar, it follows events.
And with that, we need to go to an executive session.
Personnel.
We have personnel and negotiations. All right.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Teresa, second by Pam. I think we lose Matt at this, right?
Yep.
Nice to in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're back in regular session. Do we have to turn anything on, or we can, all we're gonna do is adjourn, right?
And if you recognize who's here, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, we still have a quorum. Made a motion to adjourn by Pam, seconded by
Terry.
Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.